Well, our special guest on Absolutely Famous today is Tom Buchanan. Tom is captain of the Leschenault Cricket Club senior men's team in the Bunbury competition in Western Australia. Our main focus of today's interview, however, is a fundraiser that is very close to Tom's heart. Alia's Blue Stump Day on Saturday, December the 3rd, this Saturday coming. Tom's young niece, Alia Williams, passed away tragically at the age of just 7 from a terrible brain cancer that at the moment has no cure. It's called DIPG, Child Diffuse Intrinsic Pontine Glioma. It's a shocker. It's a very aggressive cancer which affects most of the body's vital functions, including breathing, blood pressure and heart rate. Tom, thanks so much for joining us, mate. Can you tell us a little bit about Alia's Blue Stumps Day and how it came about?
Yeah, hi John. Thanks so much for having a chat with me. I really appreciate you having me on. So, Alia's Blue Stumps Day, as you mentioned, is this coming Saturday. It's the second year that the Leschenault Cricket Club has organised this fundraising event, and it was really something that just came about, obviously, after Alia passed away, and a lot of people at the cricket club who knew Alia and obviously very close with my family decided to create a day where they could help raise some funds because, as you mentioned, this tumour is it's highly aggressive. It affects mostly children, and it really relies on funding from people like us and to really help advance research. So they just wanted to create a day in honour of Alia and to help raise money for DIPG. So I think it's a great initiative, and hopefully this year it'll be another great success.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be over there last year on Blue Stump Day. I'd never heard about it, but I quickly realised what it was all about. And Alia's mum, Katie, gave a pretty tear-jerking speech afterwards. And it looks to me as though the whole of Bunbury cricket get behind it, Tom.
Yeah, well, last year it was just initially going to be the game that we played in Leschenault. We played against Eton, and each year it will be played against Eton, but initially it was just going to be our game. But I think, as with most country sport, I've really created some really strong friendships with people from other clubs as well. And I think they've understood what I've gone through and what my family have gone through. And for that reason, I think, every club in the A grade last year raised their own money, on the same day. And I think this year they'll be doing the same thing. So I think it just speaks to, country sport and the relationships you form, the friendships you make, and they've been willing to jump on board and help and raise a bit of money as well, which is just great.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Now, Alia, of course, obviously a much-loved member of the Leschenault cricket family. She's obviously pretty keen on cricket.
Yeah, she was. Katie's my sister. Katie and her husband Bryce, they would always be down at the cricket watching me playing. For that reason, Alia was always around, and I always said, all of my teammates knew who Alia was, but most people in the BDCA did because she was such a vibrant young girl that whenever she was around at the cricket, everyone was sort of drawn to her, and if it was a conversation passing by that she'd have with you or something like that, everyone just knew who Alia was. And I think it speaks to Katie and Bryce, the incredible daughter that they raised, and then also the fine young lady that she was at just seven years of age. She touched so many people and got along with everyone that she came in touch with. She was a really special kid.
Yeah. Now you yourself, Tom, you do something pretty special. You do a cycle ride as well, your own fundraiser. What does that involve? Where do you cycle from?
Yeah, so I've created the ride for Alia, which we only just completed it around 6 weeks ago now. It was on October 1st. That was the second year that I did it. The first year was obviously the year before, and the first year we raised $45,000, and then this year we've raised over $110,000, so over $150,000 in its first 2 years, which is quite remarkable. And it's a ride. It starts from Windy Harbour, which is about 2.5 hours south of Bunbury, and we ride all the way back to Leschenault. So it's 260 kilometres, and we get it done in a single day. So it's about 9 or 10 hours on the bike. It's it's a pretty grueling day, but I wanted it to be a challenge, and I wanted it to be tough. So people felt it was a worthy cause to be raising money for, not just for DIPG, but, for what we're actually achieving on the day and riding 260 Ks in a day, which is a pretty big effort.
That's a huge effort. $150,000. You must be absolutely, well, you should be proud of yourself. Absolutely there.
Yeah, absolutely, John. It's, again, I think it just speaks to the community, the people that have gotten behind us, when they hear this story and realise, what it involves and what's actually happened. It's devastating to think that young kids are put through this and have to face this. And I think, when you hear young kids having to go through this sort of stuff, it really, can really affect us adults who, these kids are so innocent, and they just shouldn't be faced with this at any stage in their life, let alone when they're so young. And it just speaks to the community wanting to get behind us and support us. And we've had a lot of businesses come on board to help us raise that big number that we have. But hopefully it's the start of something big because, as I mentioned at the start, it's the money and raising these dollars that's so important to go into research and help these families at least get some sort of hope that if they're faced with a DRPG diagnosis that, they've got a chance, or their children at least have a chance, because at the moment they don't stand a chance. And that's the devastating part about it.
I would imagine it'd be unimaginable grief, something like that happens to a family. Is your family getting through okay?
Yeah, I think, our family's getting through as well as you possibly could, John. Unfortunately, the hard part about grief is it's until you really experience it at such a devastating level, it's, you never really know what anyone's going through, and every grief is different. So yeah, it's been such a difficult time for our family, but, thankfully we're such a close family and we've been able to support each other through it. But, at the same time, it's particularly for Katie and Bryce, unfortunately no day will ever be the same for them. They've got to go the rest of their life without their young daughter by their side, and that's simply not fair. So, while there's been some really difficult times, I think, we are coping as well as you possibly could. We're all sticking together and supporting each other, and that's really important.
And your wonderful cricket club, the Leishanot Cricket Club, obviously plays a big part in that. I've had the pleasure of being up to the club a few times now, following my grandson, and there's just a wonderful atmosphere up there in the clubhouse.
It certainly is, John, and I think it's things like this that really speak to the people at the club and who run this club. And they've always talked themselves as such a family club and a supportive club, and this is another example of that. And I think it shows why I love the club so much and I'm so loyal and devoted to the club. It's for reasons like this, because they've supported my family immensely, and I've got some lifelong mates there, and even my parents who spend a lot of time there, they've got some lifelong friends there. And it's the reason I love the club. It's not just all about on field for the Leishanot Cricket Club. It's about what happens off field as well, and supporting my family and other things as well. It's not just this. It's the way that they run anything that they do is just so supportive and welcoming, and really open to anyone or anything that happens to come their way.
And a great honour, of course, Tom, to be captain of a senior team, and especially your team at the moment. You've skipped a couple of wins clear at the top of the table. They had a good win yesterday.
Yeah, we've had a great start to the year, John. This is the first year that we've gotten a couple of imports from overseas, which is something we've never really done in the past, and we decided to make that decision this year and get a couple of English imports, and they're both really great lads. They're quality cricketers and they've fitted in really well, and I think that's, we've got a lot of talent, a lot of local talent in our first grade side as well, but when you just inject that little bit more class, it really strengthens up not only the A grade and the B grade. And it's a really good feeling at the club this year. We've had a great start, as you mentioned. We're undefeated through. We've had 6 games. There was 1 washout, so we're 5-0 with a washout, and hopefully we can just keep the momentum going and get to the Christmas break still on top of the ladder, and then reassess after that. But hopefully it certainly looks like a good finals campaign coming up, and hopefully we can go all the way.
Yeah, I love the fact that you give the young fellas a go. You've got you've got a group of young boys there, young men, so much talent.
Yeah, I've said for a little while, I don't want to, disrespect anyone else in the BDCA, but I genuinely believe we've got, two of the best kids in the comp in Tyne Dodds and Nico LaRue. They're mature beyond their years. They've got an enormous amount of talent. And I've already said to them that I'll be backing them, pretty much all the way this year, unless they get on a really bad run of not scoring runs, then obviously, the conversation or the decision might need to be made. But I just can't see that happening. They're quality cricketers. The energy that they bring to the side each week is so important. And as you've mentioned, I'm more than happy to back them in throughout the year, because I know that, Tyne's had an unbelievable start to the year. He's looked so good at the crease. Unfortunately, he's made a few starts without making a real big one, but I know that's not far away. And Nico LaRue's a kid that, he can just take the game away from anyone, at the push of a button. Unfortunately, it hasn't quite happened this year so far, but I know similar to Tyne, it's going to come because, they've got the ability there. And, one day it'll just click for them and they'll be like, this is how it is and this is how easy it can be when you spend a bit more time at the crease and really get in. And I know it's not far away for either of them, and hopefully they can play a big part for the remainder of the year.
And you got a guy that came out and hit 18 sixes the other day. I played cricket for nearly 40 years and I never saw anyone hit 18 sixes in an innings.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. And, we've talked about the two English imports. We've talked about two really good young kids. And then, you've just mentioned Stevie Dennison, who, I've played a lot of cricket and I haven't seen too many people strike a cricket ball like he does. And he's threatened to do that for a long time. He'll make 60 off 40 and then, get himself out. But, that week he really went on with it. And, 4 fours, 18 sixes. It defies belief when you read the scorebook. But, in a way, for people that have seen him play a lot of cricket, it's not surprising at all because he's got the ability there. He can hit a ball as clean as anyone I've ever seen. And hopefully, it's not the only time he does it this year.
And of course, as well as cricket, Tom, you've been involved in the horse racing, specifically harness racing for a while, and you still work in the industry?
Yeah, I do a media work in the horse racing industry now. So I trained and drove trotters for, probably 13 or 14 years. I might have got into the sport when I was about 16. And, a few years ago, I thought I didn't see myself doing it in 5 to 10 years' time. It's obviously a demanding industry in terms of, the hours that have to be worked. And I just thought, what's a way I could stay within the industry a little bit more sustainable long term. And I thought I'd give a crack at, doing a bit of media work, a bit of form analysing, pre-race, post-race interviews and things like that. So, I was able to get an opportunity in the media, and that was about 3 years ago now, and everything's going smoothly at the moment. And, a few more opportunities have been opening up here and there. So it's a difficult industry to break into in terms of, the media and getting enough work for it to be the only work that I do. So there's still a little bit of work here and there to fill in my extra hours for the week. But, I'm so passionate about the horse industry and hopefully I can make a long-term career out of it.
Fantastic. Yeah, a lot of fun, the horse racing for sure. Tom, thanks so much for being on the show, and we'll include a link to Alia's Blue Stump Day, so if people want to donate to the fund, they can, and I'm sure it'll go really well. I think you're building up a momentum for it, and long may it continue, and congratulations on everyone involved.
Yeah, thanks, John. Thanks so much for having me on. I think, interviews like this and creating that little bit of awareness for a group that might not have, really heard about the story is really important. So, yeah, thanks for having me on and having a chat. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Tom.